Woo! Yeah, you gotta love it. Hello, everybody. It's Maurice Brown of the Maurice Brown Show. Our 3 o'clock edition today has a comedian and actor who co-starred with Will Smith in the film The Pursuit of Happyness. Terminator 2 stars in the role of Big Mike in the NBC series Chuck, an international headlining comic who has graced the stage with comics like Jerry Seinfeld and Rodney Dangerfield, and was recently nominated for a Daytime Emmy Award nomination for his role as Hector in the comedy short Stacks. Ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado, please welcome the very funny, the very talented Mark Christopher Lawrence. What's up, Mark? How are you, bro?
Hey, thanks for having me, brother. Actually, that's my second nomination. Earlier in the year, we were nominated for a little film called The Flourish for a regional Emmy.
Wow. Yeah. Quite impressive. So you have had a very good time away during the pandemic. Everything kind of slowed down, but you've kind of still been going along swimmingly, it sounds like to me, Mark. What's been happening, man?
Well, it's been slow, man. I mean, during the pandemic, I did a lot of teaching. I taught a Shakespeare workshop through VIP Ignite. I taught comedy workshops for Moore Park Theater for their summer camp for their kids. High Street Art Center is what it's called in Moore Park. I had a couple of private clients that I taught acting and comedy, and that's basically what occupied most of my time during the pandemic, because it was just a lot of sitting around and sleeping. The first couple of weeks I was glad, to be sleeping, because I had been on the road, and I was sleeping so much the cat was looking at me like, "Are you a cat?"
Well, I tell you, things are starting to slowly get back to normal, it looks like, Mark, as we kind of go along here. Things are starting to kind of look normal again, certainly way more than it used to be. Do you think that, and what has taken over is the streaming platform we're on right now, like that has kind of like been the new way, and to the extent it seems like it might like stay, like it's not going to go anywhere. What do you think of that?
Well, I think, for sure, like a lot of casting has been, online and streaming, and I think that feels like it's going to be the new norm. Although I really like being in the room, being able to control how many takes that I want to do is a plus side of that.
Yeah. Well, and then also the other plus is the auditioning part of it. Like I can audition, halfway across the country. I can audition for a film in Italy or whatever, some of which I've had the chance to do. So that is a huge advantage as to why this probably isn't going to go anywhere. We're going to go back to the live performances and all of that, but this seems to be a staying factor in entertainment.
Yeah, I think so. I think good or bad, it is what it is, and embrace it.
Yes. Yeah. Now, what do you think about doing comedy on this platform? Did you ever get used to it, or what would you think?
I hated every second of it, and here's why. When you're in a club or at a theater, doing comedy, people are focused on the show. When they're at home, they got the kids running in and out, the dog and the cat is running through, and they're not focused, and it's not fun to do. A lot of times they're muted, so you can't hear the laughter, you can't hear the feedback. And my act feeds off the energy of the audience, and so if that's not there, I'm just on automatic pilot, just running through the jokes, and it's not fun for me, and I can't imagine it's fun for the audience. I did do one show with Jason Earls, who was a very funny comic. His format was more like a talk show.
Okay.
So we'd start talking, and he just set you up to live. You set you up alive to get one of your jokes in.
Yeah.
And that worked beautifully. I love the way that happened. And it was 20 minutes or so, and we're out.
Yeah. That's the only thing about comedy on this platform. If you got a bunch of faces in front of you, you kind of like there's a 2-second delay, so you wait. You get your laugh 3 seconds later, which is weird, but you got to get used to it.
Exactly.
Now, you were just nominated for, and you just alluded to the fact you've had 2 nominations in 2021. But the one in particular I'm referring to is Stacks. It's a comedy. It's a comedy short, which is hilarious. It's really a very funny comedy short. Tell us a little bit about Stacks.
Well, Gerald Webb hit me up one night and said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And I was like, "Oh, that's a great idea." And he says, "Well, do you think you might want to be involved?" I was like, "Yeah." So he brought me on as an actor and co-producer, and we over about a 48-hour period went from what do you think about this to film in the can. And
Right.
yeah, and Meredith, was helping drive the ship, and drove. It was his directorial debut, which was, I think, brilliant. It's like for your first time out, and even if you're a seasoned, the way he held the tension was fantastic. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I hope it brings him so much more work as a director. It was great working with him because he won very James Cameron like, knew what he wanted to see, and then
Yeah.
very Rusty Cundiff like let me go a little bit and say, hey, so we got that in the can, but in this one, do whatever you want to do, which is great
Yeah.
freedom, and so a couple of my creative ideas got in.
Well, it's so funny. It's so funny, and you really sold it. And I don't want to get it's a comedy short, so I could very easily give away too much because I want all the fans out
Yeah.
there to see this. And by the way, how can fans see Stacks?
Um, they can. Trying to think if the link is on my website. Look up Gerald Webb on YouTube,
Okay.
and it's under his stuff.
It's funny, dude. I mean, so anyway, as I was saying, I don't want to give up too much. It is a comedy short, but I do love the way that you sold the seriousness of, I believe Hector is the character's name that you were portraying, dude. And I mean, it was like you were, and that's what comedy is. You're going this way, and then all of a sudden you get an abrupt change to the other direction, and that's kind of how the
Right.
that's how the
The
comedy
payoff.
short is, and you
Yeah.
sell it. Hey.
Hey, I think for me it was fun to do because people are so used to seeing me as a comedian or as a comic actor.
Yeah.
And my very first big agent, when they signed me, I was doing Life is a Dream by Calderon at the Los Angeles
Okay.
Theater Center back in the height of the Los Angeles Theater Center's run, and it's a very heavy dramatic play, and I
Yeah.
played King Basilio, which is a huge role, and but once they saw me, that my agents saw me do comedy, do stand up, they stopped sending me out for dramas, and which doesn't make any sense to me because I think I'm a better actor as a dramatic actor than I am a comedic actor. The comedy I
Yeah.
don't work as hard because it comes.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's where a lot of fans kind of get confused with you as an entertainer because you have a very familiar face in comedic roles. However, for myself personally, I know that you have the ability to be a fantastic actor. I've seen you in other in other projects that are not, they're serious.
Yeah.
And you're really good at that. You're a really good actor, but I really think, Mark, if there's a good combination of your ability to be funny with the seriousness, like you combine the both of them in Stacks.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that just being able to play, that seriousness and to give it a little wink is awesome.
Now, you mentioned Gerald Webb, but also that was assisting in the production, in the project, is Meredith Thomas. What was it like working with Meredith?
Meredith is great, man. She is very straightforward. She has fun while we're on set. She moves things along. If you need a producer, that's going to help you go from A to B, she's a good choice.
Yes. Yes, and again, ladies and gentlemen, please check out the comedy short stacks with Mark Christopher Lawrence, which was developed by Gerald Webb, and they were just nominated, as I said, for a Daytime Emmy Award. And by the way, when and where can fans see the Daytime Emmy Awards?
Well, I know the awards are going to be on May 17th, and I'm not sure. I know
You
that
mean
it's
July 17th, right?
July 17th,
Yeah.
yes. And I know that it's streaming, and I don't know if it's going to be televised or not. So I think the best thing to do is Google Daytime Emmy Awards and see what comes up. I haven't gotten any information as to where it's going to be.
Okay. I know there was a time back in the day, not too far back in the day, actually, when the Daytime Emmy Awards were actually televised.
Yeah.
I think that was at a time when it was mostly constituted with soap opera awards, but now it's broadened its horizons, no question.
Right.
But awesome nomination for you. Congratulations on 2 Emmy. And tell us a little bit more about that first one that you got.
The Flourish was written and directed by Shannon Taylor in San Diego, and a little girl, Faith Herman, from This Is Us, is in it. The story is sort of centered around that character, and she's an aspiring magician, and she's a little girl, and it's a really feel-good kind of story. I was glad to be a part of it. My character kind of had sort of a PTSD kind of thing going on, and I think not enough screen time for him. I think if had it been a longer format, it would have been a better look at the depth at which I had to go to get to where I was.
Now, Mark, I wonder if you would care to expound a little bit. You did already a slight bit, but I'm curious for myself personally to know what it is about acting that you feel more. You feel as though you're a better actor than you are a comic. Why do you feel that way?
Well, here's the thing. With comedy, I have very, very good chops and instincts, and it comes fast. It's like I see the joke immediately and jump on it, and so it's natural for me to be funny. I mean, I grew up as a kid playing the dozens, so I was always funny. Until it became a fight. That was comedy and drama all in one day in Compton. But then in drama, sometimes you have to dig around to ugliness in your life to find the emotional place that you need to be in a piece. For example, I did Vincent's here in San Diego, and I played Gabriel. And at the end of the play, Gabriel goes to blow his horn to let his brother into heaven, and the week of tech rehearsals and all that leading up to our final dress rehearsal before we opened, I was exhausted. So I stood behind stage in a dark spot, out of the dressing room so that, all the noise in there didn't disturb me. I was trying to find my way there. And so what I did was I did a sensory recall of when my personal brother, my own brother, passed. And the day that we buried him. So I went from the moment I woke up and started thinking about everything from the moment I woke up until we put him into the ground.
Okay.
Everything I could think of in great detail. And so when I came out on stage, that energy and that sorrow was there. And my first line is, "Hey, Rose." And I said, "Hey, Rose." And there was something in it that made her turn and look. And usually she would just keep doing what she was doing. But this time she turned and looked, and she saw my face, and a tear ran down her cheek.
Okay.
And then before the show was over, that's the last thing in the play, you could hear the audience crying. And then I could hear sniffles behind me. And, when we go black and then the curtain comes up and I look, and the rest of the cast is on stage at that point. And, there's tears in the cast.
Wow.
And so that stuff, you got to dig around in that. And I actually went home that night and I thought, maybe I went a little too far because that feeling hung on me for a few hours.
Yeah.
But it was easier to get there the next time I needed to get there.
Yeah.
So there's the work that goes into being dramatic, and that's aside from just playing the technical, what do I want in the scene? And just to be able to layer that other stuff in there. As a dramatic actor, you got to dig around and stuff that's sometimes unpleasant.
Yes, and I tell you right now, I learned that in 2016 as I was a part of the film Love Different with Tommy Ford and Jen Gotzon. That was my first.
Tommy is my brother from another mother, right?
I didn't know that. I had no idea.
Tommy and I were 100% of the African American population of the Bachelor of Fine Arts program at USC.
Oh my goodness gracious! I did not know that. That's amazing. That is quite amazing. I had a chance to work with Tommy, an amazing individual. I mean, he's the same on and off camera. I mean, he's just got this high spirit, man.
Big energy and oh my gosh. Man.
But as a comic, first, I didn't understand the challenge of acting. And I was the bad guy, and I had a couple of scenes. One was very long. And there was a lot of verbiage, and there was emotions, and there were tears. Thank goodness I did not have to literally cry tears, but I had to get there, as you said, to that the emotional place. And we did it one time, and I thought it was over, Mark. We shot it. I said, man, great, I did it. I got through it. And they were like, okay, let's do it again from this angle. And we did it like a number of times just because they wanted different angles. And I couldn't believe it.
You have to have like the master shot, then you have to have coverage of you, then coverage of your scene partners. So it's tedious, and people don't see that part of it.
Yeah.
They see the finished product, and everybody will think, oh yeah, I can do that, but everybody can't.
Oh no, no, you can't do that. I was like having little trouble getting, because you had to maintain that intensity.
Yeah.
Every time you got to maintain that same intensity and emotion, and I got a newfound respect for actors after that film. Like, that is a serious deal. I just think that live stand-up comedy is probably the most challenging art form that exists. But my respect for actors went way up after that particular experience. Like you said, it's about getting to that place and staying in it.
Right.
And that's quite a challenge.
Well, I think one thing to think about when you're acting, Maurice, is if you're playing your action, what do I want? If you're playing that, then all the emotional stuff that comes along is a byproduct of you trying to get your action, whether you get it or not.
Yeah.
Your frustration and all that stuff, your anger, because if you set out to play anger, it's one dimensional. But if you set out to play in action, I want this person to sit down. I want them to die. I want them to whatever.
Yeah.
Play that, then and you're actively going after it. Then everything else falls into place as it's supposed to, and it makes getting to those places of your extreme hostility as the bad guy easier.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that when you watch people cry real tears, as they did in this particular scene. Jen Gotzon, I don't know if you've ever had the pleasure of meeting Jen Gotzon, but she was dude. She'd do it on cue. I mean, she could just cry out cue.
Yeah.
And I had never seen such depth. And of course, Tommy, Tommy Ford. Tommy's just an amazing. God rest his soul. He was an amazing actor. He just had that spirit, man.
We worked together many, many times.
You were talking about though comedy. It's like it's there. It's right there in front of you. And when I was growing up, and you know how it is growing up in the black community, everybody likes to make fun of each other, jokes and all that stuff. And I used to have to deal with a lot of bullies. And my brother used to always tell me, you really handle those guys pretty good. He said, well, you better, if you don't want to get your butt kicked, you better figure out how to keep them laughing. I'll tell you that.
Right. But you said earlier that comedy is the most challenging art form. I find that singing is.
Whoa.
Because with comedy, you tell a bad joke, boom, you're into another one.
Yeah.
You can drop it and abandon and go to something else. You got 3, 4, 5 minutes of bad song.
Woo. Yeah, that's a horrible thought, Mark. You're right.
And
That's a horrible, horrible visual right there. If you're bad at singing, you can't get it back. And then we all have to sit there and watch you finish.
Right.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, everybody's got their different spins on the different types of art forms that there are. So I give you that one, Mark. That makes perfect sense. What have you learned over the years, Mark, as an actor and a comedian that has made you better at both forms of art?
I think the biggest note that I've taken has been one, timing. Okay. Bill Cosby actually said to me, "Don't move, don't talk until that laughter subsides." And I went from 7 minutes to 25 minutes overnight.
Wow!
From him watching a 7-minute clip of my stand-up, and then, but I think the thing that translates to both for me is the work. Don't slouch on the work. It's like you have to put in the work.
Yeah.
To get better at it.
Yeah.
I'm known mostly from two things: the TV show Chuck and Fear of a Black Hat, the film Fear of a Black Hat. Okay. And when I watch film Fear of a Black Hat, I just laugh because it's crazy funny. But I watch myself now with 20 years plus eyes on it, and I wasn't a good actor then. It's like I look at it and I was like, I was capable, but I wasn't what I am now. And I think the work that I put in from then to now, it really shows now. And I think, if you're an aspiring actor or actress out there, or artist, put in the work.
So you've got TV and film, and you've got stand-up comedy, which is live. Mm-hmm. How do you deal with butterflies and nerves before you perform?
It's part of it. I think if I'm not nervous right before, I'm flat. Like with comedy, I'm always nervous right before I go on, and I think part of it is mostly of can I remember everything on my set list that I want to do? But there's a little bit of nerves, you know what I mean? And if that's not there, then it's usually flat for me. And even though the audience will laugh, but for me, it's still flat. And I think you got to take that energy and take it to the stage with you. I think it's the same thing with plays too. Like with plays, right before I go on, every single time, there's the butterflies right before I go on. But after I get the first couple of lines out, I'm good to go.
I saw a actors roundtable last year, and there were some notable actors a part of the roundtable. And one of the discussions that came up was the nerves before a live stage performance, and they were talking about in some cases where I don't know if this has ever happened to you during your years of theater performing, but the director in the story the actor was sharing would leave a bucket off to the side of the stage for any of the actors that might need it. Have you ever seen that?
The only time I've ever seen a bucket was I was doing a play at the Los Angeles Theater Center years ago. Okay. And 1987 or 88, I believe. Okay. And I had some sort of virus that was affecting my throat. Hadn't eaten in about 2 weeks from it. Okay. The show must go on. So yes. Just going to the show, and they had a bucket over in the side because they would always feed me something right before the show. And I'd feel a little nauseated. So they kept a bucket over there just in case. Yeah. Other than that, I've never seen the bucket, but I've heard stories about the bucket. There was an actor, Richmond Hoxie, years ago that would tell stories about when he first started acting. He was in his 70s when I worked with him. And he'd tell stories about, being in shows where, we kept a bucket on both sides of the stage because it was always somebody nervous.
You made a statement a moment ago about what Bill Cosby had shared about the timing in comedy, and I've been doing this for about 10 years. So maybe 11. And I've definitely got some experiences under my belt, but at the same time, I'm still kind of really starting to figure it out now. And you know, one thing about comics as they're learning how to be really good consistently is to be comfortable in silence. And so learning how to get that laugh and then just wait, just let it marinate.
Yeah.
Just let let them enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then go into the next one, and that's the part that I'm attempting to master now, you know, because you always think you got to keep them laughing, you got, you know, and you know, you got to just slow down.
That's exactly what Bill said to me. It's like I was in my trailer. I was working on Ghost Dad, and I was in my trailer, and I was watching my little 7-minute tape, and Bill and Sidney Poitier were walking by, and he saw it. He goes, "How long is it?" I said 7 minutes. So he said, "Rewind it," and he stepped up onto the steps and he watched the whole 7 minutes.
Wow!
And he said, "It's as if you're afraid of the silence." He said, "You're telling so many jokes, you're not giving them a chance to laugh." He says, "You're stepping all over laughs."
Yeah.
He said, "Don't talk. Don't move until the laughter subsides. Then go."
Yeah.
And literally overnight, I went from 7 minutes to about 25, 28 minutes.
There's a very good reason I heard you say that. That's like the 5th time I've heard that statement made about being comfortable in silence. And when I say that, this is for your elite comics. Like, you know, guys like yourself, guys that have been doing it a while and they understand. Bill Cosby, you mentioned Bill Cosby. And then you look at a guy, I watched Dave Chappelle a few months ago do a set where he was just literally sitting there on a stool, kind of talking off the cuff. Yeah. And he would go like 3 minutes without any, because he was comfortable just talking his truth.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And that's when you're starting, that's when you're becoming a master of your craft.
Well, here's the thing. If they're not chattering, you got them.
Great point. Great point.
You got them. If they're, you know, I watched the guy, I can't remember, his last name is escaping me right now. His name is Chris. He writes for Chelsea, used to write for Chelsea lately. And I watched him one night. We were working together in Reno. And there was a couple of times during his set where he would get real soft. And I noticed the audience kind of lean in.
Okay. Yeah.
I was like, ooh, what a nice little piece. And it was a thing that just stuck with me. I was like, oh, that's good. And so I find myself sometimes, if I feel like maybe my energy is too high, or if there might be drifting a little bit, I'll get soft and they'll lean in. It's like,
yes,
what a great piece of a great tool to have in the toolbox.
Now, as things are starting to get back to normal slowly, Mark, we're starting to get there. Do you have anything that's coming up on the horizon in regards to comedy and acting?
Acting wise, I'm heading out to Knoxville to do a show, a film for PureFlix on the 14th. I'll be there for about a week. And then All the Queen's Men, Tyler Perry's All the Queen's Men will premiere in August on BET Plus. Again, I get to play a dramatic role that they let me put a little funny into.
Yes.
And it's Eva Marcille is brilliant in it and easy on the eyes. And it's something, you know, a departure from what Tyler normally does. Tyler didn't direct it or write it or act in it. He exec produced it. And, you know, with his other capable executive producers, Michelle Sneed and Elon Johnson. And it's really very different from what they normally do at Tyler Perry Studios, and I think it'll find its audience because it's a great series. I did 4 episodes, and Kim Fields directed 2 of them, and a couple of other brothers directed the other 2, and it's powerful and very different, and people are gonna like it.
You are a man of God, Mark, and I want to ask you this question in reference to the faith-based filmmaking community. Mm-hmm. And it's still having some struggles in terms of drawing viewers and making a difference at the box. It's gotten a lot better at the box office, but they're still on the come up. What is your opinion about the faith-based filmmaking industry?
I think part of it is budget. I think people don't have the budget to do, what studios do.
Yeah.
PureFlix is starting to get really good at doing it well. There's other companies that are doing it well, but budget has a lot to do with it. It's like if you can't shoot union, you're not getting the best actors that you can get.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing is that because you don't have budget, you don't have the time to put into the script sometimes.
Yeah.
But now that some of the mainstream studios have recognized that there is, money in the faith-based industry, they're starting to do some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And putting some dollars behind it. I think the biggest thing the biggest note I would give to the faith-based industry is because of the technology now,
mm-hmm.
you can produce something with better production values.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's time to just start thinking in terms of, if I had $1 million, how would I do this shot?
Right.
Right. And shoot it that way. And really don't be afraid to use union actors. I mean, it's really not that. I've produced a couple of things, and it's not that oppressive. It's like it adds a little bit to your bottom line, but actors want to act, so go after somebody that you really like, and you'll be surprised that people just want to act and will jump in and do some stuff.
Have you been approached on a regular basis from the? I think I've seen you in maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I've seen you maybe in 1 or 2 faith-based films. Would that be correct?
I've done, recurring on a series for PureFlix. I've done a talk show for PureFlix that I've produced. I've done an episode of their show called The Content, and now I'm doing this film with them coming up. And I think years ago I did one faith-based thing, and I can't even remember what it's called. It's not even on my IMDb. I don't think, because IMDb wasn't around back then.
Yeah.
But I would love to do more faith-based stuff. I think if people are out there and you're looking, for a solid actor, here I am.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt about that.
I enjoy, being able to, and when we say faith-based, it doesn't have to necessarily be every movie, every scene. Has to be, saving your soul. Can my whole family watch it? I think that's what it needs to be. It's something that we can watch without having to tell the kids to go to bed. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, that's definitely what you want as a faith-based film, definitely. I think that the budgets have to get better, I think, quite frankly and honestly. Either it's the writing or it's the quality of actors that they're able to bring in to do the project. But I think because at the end of the day, Mark, the reason you do a faith-based film is to attract secular eyes. So, right. They will be impressed upon, and an effective change could potentially occur in their life, but you can't get their eye if you're not producing solid, substantive, quality material and work.
That's fact.
It's just the bottom line.
Yeah. And even with secular material, if your film sucks, nobody's going to go see it.
No, nobody's going to see it. No, nobody's going to see it, but I do think that the efforts in the faith-based world are making an attempt. I just wondered what your opinion was of it, because like I said, I know that you are a man of God, a strong man of God, and I know that as I look at the landscape of things, it's like you're one of those guys that I don't see in a lot of faith-based films, and I was wondering what your take would be on all of that.
Yeah, I think part of it too is that it's like they're not coming after me. I was working with David A.R. White on Malibu Dan, on the series Malibu Dan. I did I think 4 episodes the first season and 3 the second season, and then so the second season we had a scene where it was just he and I on a couch, and he at one point looked at me and he said, you are really good at this.
Yeah.
He goes, why aren't you working all the time? I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I say that every day.
Well, on this particular subject, I'll end it with this. I do a show. I've done 2 shows on the lack of diversity in faith-based films. Not to mention Hollywood, but I mean faith-based films. There's a lack of diversity there. I've done a couple of shows with Cameron Arnett and Anthony Hackett, Michael Patterson, Skeeta Jenkins, and Sharon Lanier, and Karen Abercrombie. And we've just talked about the lack of diversity that exists in the faith-based filmmaking world. And as I talk with you, you are an example of a lack of diversity. Like, there's no reason that an actor like Mark Christopher Lawrence, a man of God, should not have been approached not once, but multiple times for work. And unfortunately, it's a discussion that's worthy of having a roundtable discussion about. And down the road, Mark, because I'm going to do a part 3 of that subject matter, and I would love to have you a part of the panel. But what would be your opinion of that?
I think even as you were speaking, it occurred to me that in our society there exists black church and white church.
Yes.
And a lot of times, like, my church is very all-encompassing. I go to Horizon Christian Fellowship, and they're very all-encompassing.
Okay.
But when there's quote-unquote black church and white church, if you are going to black church or you are going to white church and you are a filmmaker, what you see at your church is kind of what your film might look like.
Yes. Very good. Very good.
And I think that we got to get beyond what your church looks like and get to what society looks like.
Yes.
Like, for example, I never watched a whole episode of Friends because they didn't have any black friends. How are you in New York City and you don't have black friends? And
right.
And so, but you go to New York City and it's a melting pot of people.
Yes.
And how is it that you can have a completely white world in New York City?
Not possible.
And so, and I think the same thing with church and films, based in faith. We have to look at society and look at who we're trying to reach. We're not trying to just preach. Jesus didn't just preach to the disciples.
Right.
The mandate was to win, disciple and send them out to the masses to bring more people into the grace of God.
Correct.
And I think as filmmakers, I think if you're calling yourself a faith-based filmmaker,
right,
you need to expand your view of what society looks like.
Yeah.
Not just what your world looks like.
That's
on
right.
a day-to-day basis. If you're just hanging out with all white people, if you're just hanging out with all black people, you got to think in terms of what's the message, what's the mandate.
Yeah.
Got to reach out and grab people of all colors, reach out and grab all of God's people and bring them into the fold.
There's a show on PureFlix called Vindication. Have you seen it yet?
I haven't seen that one yet.
Number one, check it out. It's one of the best faith-based projects, I think, myself personally, you'll ever see. However, the show's director and creator is Jared O'Flaherty. We had a sit down. We were just having lunch together, and we were just talking about how to include a more diverse cast. Mm-hmm. And he was telling me, and I to piggyback on what you just said about white church, black church, he said, well, Maurice, when I go to my church, everyone's white. I go to my neighborhood, everyone's white. I go to, certain functions, and everyone's white. And he said, unconsciously, I start, employing people that I see on a regular basis. And I go, okay, well and that's fair, and it's fair and honest. I understand that, but but the fact that we were able to have an open conversation about it, kind of made him realize that you do have to get outside of your world, as it were, and
Yeah.
understand the world. Like there's a bunch of different people out here,
Yes.
and that have stories to tell, and that can be a part of the narrative of Jesus Christ, for sure. That, and so I just had to piggyback on what you said about well, people are in the filmmaking business are merely mimicking what they see in their own personal lives.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, as a young filmmaker, you're told to write what you know,
Yeah.
and what's close to you. And if that's all that's close to you, then you got to take that, you got to shake that up and go, okay, I can write this uh, the way I know it, but then how do I be inclusive and be able to reach more people?
And if anyone's watching this, I'm talking to Mark Christopher Lawrence, comedian and actor. And as you can see, he was in The Pursuit of Happyness with Will Smith. He's been a Terminator 2, and he's been nominated for an Emmy Award for a comedy short called Stacks. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I haven't even scratched the surface of what he's done. That being said, this is a man that needs to be working on a regular basis in Christendom. So if Mark, I hope you're writing all of this down if you're a filmmaker, because Mark Christopher Lawrence is a guy that you need to seek out. Excellent actor. So Mark, I'm going to leave that particular topic there, but down the road I want to talk more with you on a panel on the subject, because I think there's a lot there. Skeeta Jenkins,
Yeah,
I don't know if you're familiar with Skeeta or not. Skeeta and I were talking about this on a show way back in the towards the end of 2020 on this very subject, and it's like you can't, as an actor of color, ignore it. I mean, you just cannot ignore it. And when you're watching a faith-based film, and there's some quality faith-based films out there, I mean,
Yeah.
I love them. I do, but you can't help but notice, oh my gosh, there's not one black person in this frame. Not in any of these frames. So you just start to question that, and it's just something that is worth discussing and improving upon. So that being said, Mark,
Yeah.
is there any advice that you can leave with young actors out there, and comedians for that matter, that are thinking about making acting and comedy a career choice?
Couple of things. One, find something, early in career, find something that you love to do, that
Yeah.
gives you flexibility, that pays your bills, something
Yes.
that you love to do, so that it doesn't feel like a chore to do it, and get that up and running and moving and paying you right now
Mm-hmm.
while you're pursuing your dream. Um, because when you're chasing your dream, there's a lot of free stuff you're going to need to do,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard to do that when you're wondering where your phone bill or your rent is coming from.
Correct. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
find that thing that pays you, that you love to do, and get that up and moving and get it running in a way that it's paying you even if you're not there.
Right.
Because you can, that gives you the freedom to go out and chase your dream, and then put in the work to be good at your craft.
Yeah.
If that means you need to take some workshops, take some workshops. Whatever that means to you, put in the work to be good at it. There's nothing more valuable than hard work.
I totally agree, and I think what happens with young people in many cases is they see the big stars on the big screen. They see all this stuff on social media. Unfortunately, social media gives you a very out of proportion look at what this life is really like. There's a lot of rejection, in acting, and
Well, let me clarify that rejection piece, and I tell people all the time that
Okay.
technically it's not rejection.
Okay.
What happens is this, especially when you get to this level.
Yeah.
I'll go into a room. There's 10 guys reading for the same role.
Okay.
Every one of us are capable of doing the role.
Yeah.
So if you don't get it, you're not rejected. They just went another way. It wasn't a rejection of you. It was like maybe there was some little thing about what he did that got him the role this time.
Okay.
So don't look at it as rejection. You're only competing against yourself, and you're not competing against the other actors. What it is you're going in, be the best you can be when you get into the room.
Yeah.
And now as we talked about earlier with streaming your auditions, you have every opportunity to be very, very good at your audition because you can take as many takes as you need to get it right.
Yes. Yes. And I'm glad you cleaned that up too, because in this field of acting, you audition, you didn't get the role, so after a while you start feeling rejected. You start to feel negative when the reality is, no, you shouldn't feel that way. You had the opportunity, number one, to audition. Someone thought you were good enough to audition.
Absolutely.
And then they decided that they wanted it done another way, not that you weren't good. They never would have picked you if they didn't think you were good. So if you don't get it, don't walk away feeling rejected.
Exactly.
It just didn't work out.
And that piece about they decided they wanted to see it another way, that's the one piece about streaming auditions or auditions that are self-taped that I don't like, because when you're in the room, they can give you a note and say, hey, can you do it like this?
Okay.
And you don't get that feedback when you're just sending in a self-tape.
Makes perfect sense.
So I miss that part of being in the room, because I'll ask, in the room, I'll say, would you like to see it another way?
Yeah.
And so generally if I'm doing a self-tape, I give them a couple of different ways.
Which I like, and sometimes they'll say, give me two takes in a different, perspective. Sometimes they'll do that, not all the time, but it's certainly different when you're actually there. How can fans, Mark, follow you on social media or by website?
The easiest way is to find me on my website, markchristopherlawrence.com. And all of my social media links are on the website. Just scroll down to the bottom and you got it.
Mark Christopher Lawrence on the Maurice Brown Show. And if you have enjoyed watching our interview, like it and share it. And subscribe to the Maurice Brown Comedy channel on YouTube, and also any social media that you can find with Mark Christopher Lawrence as well. Now, if you came in at the very end as we are wrapping it up and you're like, darn, I missed it. Well, not really. Because at about 5 p.m. today on the Creative Motion Network on Roku TV, the entire interview will be replayed. So you really did miss it. It's okay. It's all good. And Mark, I want to let you know, as well as we prepare to step out, this show right here coming up at 5 p.m. today is a comedy Bible study. It's a roundtable discussion of the Bible, a particular scripture in the Bible, with comedians. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, breaking down the Word of God based on how God determines, or how we feel He's telling us about how we perform on stage, and then breaking down the Word of God. And there's a lot of joke telling, but the main thing is we're talking about God's Word. And I would love down the road to have you a part of one of those shows, man, with maybe some people like Bone Hampton and Jason Earls, and we can get, we can kick it, man, and break down some scripture. But and as I say that, I think as a clean comic, as a Christian comic, because a lot of times, Mark, I don't even like saying I'm a Christian comic or I'm a comic. You'll see what I am as I perform, and then you can make that judgment. Because when you tell people, hey, I'm a Christian comic, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Christian comedian Maurice Brown. Well, everybody's like, really?
Yeah. It took me 2 years to get into a club one time because I was a clean comic, and he actually said to me on the phone, "Are you funny?" I was like, "Did you watch the clip?"
Yeah. And so what happens a lot of times is you get the extra uphill climb that maybe you could remove. Just hey, I'm a comic, however you approach it. But we get on stage a lot of times, man, and it's like, okay, would God be happy if I, did this joke a certain way, what have you? And you learn, just by experience. No, he wasn't happy about the way I told that one. If you've ever seen a pitcher on the mound he reaches under the brim of his cap to get that grease, to make that ball get some extra rotation. As a comic, you're tempted to go under that hat and get a little bit of grease sometimes, and I know I've been tempted to do that. I went into an urban room once, Mark, and I went, oh my God, it was Def Comedy Jam too, dude. I mean, they were getting it in, Mark. They were getting it in, dude. And I'm on the lineup. I'm the only comic that's clean, right? And I said, oh my gosh, and I felt really bad because I reached for the goose fat under my baseball cap on that one, Mark, and I actually ended up getting pretty good laughs. But I said, gosh, I went for the goose fat. So anyway, it's a challenge,
Here's what I do. Like one night I was on this show and this kid went up before me. He was only doing 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I'm headlining and he does his guest spot. He does 10 minutes. And he started dropping so many F-bombs, I started counting them.
Oh, my goodness.
And from the time I started counting to the end of his set, he had dropped 40.
Goodness.
And so I decided I'm going to go church clean.
Okay.
This night.
Okay.
And so to change the mood of the room, I went up and started doing the stuff that I do in my set where I sing.
Okay. I got you.
I started off singing and it changed the mood of the room. It just focused everybody. I did those jokes and then went into my set the way I normally do it.
Oh my gosh, I love it, man. What a story.
Yeah. Just change the mood of the room. And sometimes I'll do that. Like if somebody, let's say somebody is on stage before me and their energy is way higher than mine.
Yeah.
And I need to bring that energy. Like sometimes I'll try to match that energy and then bring it down to where I want it to be.
Right.
But sometimes you just don't have that energy to do that with you. So I'll go and sing and then get into my stuff.
Oh man, that's a great way to go about it. Because the bottom line, sometimes the energy is just not there. And Mark, as well as I do, 75% of your funny is driven by energy.
Yes.
And even if you're like a reserved comic, everybody's got different styles, but it's all driven by your energy to get in that space.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it's like some nights, man, it ain't there, dude. It's like I'm just not there.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. So everybody, once again, we've been talking with Mark Christopher Lawrence on the Maurice Brown Show. Like I said, if you missed it, just check it out on Roku TV at about, like I said, 5 p.m. on the Creative Motion Network. Once again, Mark Christopher Lawrence on the Maurice Brown Show. And I got to say one more time, check out his comedy short. This is the most recent project that he's done. Well, it may not be the most recent, but he was nominated for an award, a Daytime Emmy Award for Stacks. Very funny. It is absolutely hilarious, believe you me. Mark Christopher Lawrence, my friend, thank you so much for being on the show, and I hope to talk with you again down the road in the near future. May the peace of Christ be with you and your family, brother. God bless you.
Thanks for having me, brother. I appreciate you, Maurice. Keep me prayed up. I'll do the same for you.